Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for May 22nd, 2026. I'm Benji Fisher, moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler sharing their screen and Simo Helston. Go ahead, Ralph.
Thanks, Benji. We are revisiting briefly the issue from last week. It's issue number 32777735. Media library field modal should not close after clicking the inserted click button. Insert selected button if there is no image selected. Last week we discussed this one and already left a review and had the consensus to revisit the issue for basically some wordsmithing. And Scott Euser, working on the issue, already incorporated all the changes which suggested. And he also already made basically a suggestion. I can quickly demonstrate. If we go in here and let's go into image and say insert selected, then as you can see, now the error message is full width. And he already made a suggestion by simplifying the error message and simply saying no items selected. So, and he left it back to needs review. And so I thought we could briefly discuss. I have one or two thoughts about it, but any questions first or any thoughts from your end?
What did we say last week about the error message? You left a comment on the issue.
Um,
Did we say anything about it or just that?
Yeah, the CTA, the error message provides with no item selected. Consider closing the dialog instead. About how to resolve the error is sort of misleading. The error does not block the interaction within the dialog that would require the closing of the dialog modal and or the reload of the page. The user has simply to select a certain number of media items depending on the field settings and or upload media items in the first place. That was basically Um, our thoughts in that regard, but we haven't discussed how to phrase it
Uh-huh.
succinctly. But his suggestion is basically based on that feedback, and he simply dropped the CTA, how to fix the problem, and he simply states, yeah, no items selected.
Simo, any questions or comments?
Well, it could say how many items should be selected instead of that telling what is the status, but it could say that select one item. So then it would tell the user what to do, not what is the current state.
Right. I was thinking the same thing that
Yep.
the error message, we normally want it to do both things, explain the current state and what to do next. And the reason to say consider closing the dialogue is that someone might have changed their mind, want to cancel out, and might not notice that little X in the upper right-hand corner, which I think, based on our experiments last week, that was the only way to close the dialogue.
Or press the escape button.
Oh, does
That's the other
escape
option.
work?
Yep, it does.
Okay. But there's no explicit cancel button.
No, but sort of it would be redundant if the X is for canceling or closing. Semantically would be slightly different from a close button, but the effect is the same.
Yeah.
It cancels. So, but yeah, and also in regard, in this case, you have only one item defined in the field settings, and the error message is plural, no items. That is another point to note.
Oh, you think it should be singular, no item selected? Hmm.
Yeah, but if you basically go in the direction Simo suggested with providing a CTA what to do and how to resolve the error message, then it's self-explanatory and also included that because you need one item here. I just wanted to point out that basically in the current state, it's a generic error message with items, while it's just one item required.
Okay. So, are we agreed that the longer error message is better with a second sentence suggesting what to do?
Yep. And also another point, looking at the sidebar with audio, document, and image instead of item. And up above we're talking, it is talked about with about media. And in the error message itself, it's just items. Should it also be more explicit in the context the person currently is in?
So I don't think we can be as specific as audio or document or image because I think if if the field allows multiple items, I think you can choose one audio and one document and one image. So we can't be that specific. We could say media items,
Yeah. Okay.
but I'm not sure we want to.
I'm too used to thinking that they are items in the like at the HTML level or the kind of classes, CSS classes, field items. So this kind of confuses me if it's called something that item, but that's something that's not visible to the user. With a screen reader, maybe it says this and this many items.
So I'm not sure. Are you saying you'd
Yeah,
like to make it media items or keep it just items?
I would keep it just items because I'm used to thinking them like things as items.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I think I agree. Just items is good enough. Um, but then what should the what exactly should the second sentence be? I think Ralph's suggestion in the comment on the issue is consider closing the dialogue instead.
try the
And again,
second
my
somewhat.
assumption is that the way people get into this situation, well, it's either a stray click, in which case we don't need to um, give them additional advice. It's either a stray click or they don't know how to close the dialogue. Um, they missed the X in the upper right corner. It's a little verbose, but I would like to say something along these lines. If you want to
Will be
close
cut.
the, what's that? If you want to close the dialogue, use the escape key. And with a comma before the word use. And the other option is to direct them to the little X in the upper right corner of the modal dialog. And I just can't think of a way to say that without even more words.
Escape key direction is more straightforward.
I don't know. For accessibility, do we have to worry about non-keyboard users? I hope not.
If someone only has a pointer device.
Yeah, I can't really imagine navigating the Drupal interface and adding alt text and things like that without a keyboard. Although I guess there's voice to text.
Hmm.
Or maybe without too many words, we could say use the escape key or the X icon and ideally insert the image or I would say the X
Oh
icon.
yeah, yeah, sorry. Use X key on the X icon. And
So I'm thinking select n items. So select one item or close the dialog, and then closing can have some additional information.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're suggesting.
I had some connection issues before, so was it that there will be a suggestion to select one item, or depending if it's possible to select more, to select the correct number of items, and then instructions to close.
So you want to have an even longer message.
Uh, Not sure.
I thought you were suggesting that we add a sentence in between the two we have
yeah.
saying that how many items they should select or select at least one or something like that.
Yeah, because then it's kind of confusing if it says only that no items selected and then instructions how to close it. Or then just leave out the no items selected away, but then it doesn't tell the current state.
Right. So I guess you'll have to add two media and then deselect them.
Mm, that's 1 second. That was that one. Okay. And the other. Okay. Let's pick that one. Upload.
So I didn't quite follow what you were doing there. Is that's
I
two
just wanted.
images?
I just tested. Um, if it's possible to select fewer images than the allowed number is.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I suppose there might be some custom constraints that require some number of images, but generally we just put an upper limit.
Just wanted to retest in regard of how it's phrased then. No item selected.
So I guess my feeling is that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but my feeling is that if you're in the modal screen to add media, we don't need to tell you that you should select some things before submitting the form. So I think that the two sentences we currently have are good enough.
Um,
Yeah, so it would be if somebody adds option like the feature to have at least a certain number of items, then it would be their responsibility to add the information that even if there is some selected, then there is not enough.
Right.
just one thought, would it make sense no item selected if you wanted to, so in to phrase it that way, because it already happened. So that way we are referring to the click before to the insert selected button. If someone clicked, then if you wanted to close a dialog, use the escape or X icon instead, maybe adding instead also, but that might be too verbose.
Yeah, I think you're putting into the past tense, but I think we should focus on the current tense. Like here we are now, we've got an error message. What do we do about it? So I would keep it current tense.
Okay. If you want to go. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And of course, instead of the letter capital X, we really want the icon inserted into that sentence.
Is it possible?
I believe so. Why wouldn't it be? Oh, oh.
Hmm.
I mean, in the actual error message, it should be possible. Whether you can get it into your text editor,
No, 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 but I was just referring to, yeah, the actual error message, because I'm not sure, is there anywhere in core where basically an icon is inserted and pointing to an interface element that way?
um, I wasn't thinking of making it an active close icon, just the same, visually the same as the icon in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, yeah, but that is what I've meant. Is there any other example where an actual icon is inserted in an error message? That was the question. But yeah, anyway, I'll add that next. Use the icon. Okay, yeah. Aside that, the issue looks good. Or is there anything else to nitpick?
Um, I'm happy with that suggestion. Zemo, are you satisfied?
Yeah, I can live with that.
Okay.
And a period at the end also.
Yes.
Okay.
So we still have more than half an hour. Shall we have a look at the two issues that I brought up in Slack yesterday?
Yep.
So let me see. I'll share my screen in a moment. Let me just scroll up. Finding the right window. Yes, this looks like the right one. Okay, this is issue 3591200. Expand security risk details to make it obvious what it means. And this is something that came up yesterday while people were thinking about the security release. I hope everyone present got their sites updated, especially if you're one of the few people using Postgres rather than MySQL. And the issue is this very cryptic string describing the security vulnerability, AC none, A none, CI all, et cetera, et cetera. Um, which if you know to hover over it, and I hope this comes out in the Zoom, you can see the help text that pops up.
Yes.
Good. So AC stands for access complexity, A stands for authentication, and so on. But the suggestion is instead of that to actually expand it out. And I think there's um, a mock-up here. Oh, oh no, it's an animated GIF. Um, that's too confusing. I'm just going to open up the static image. It has the same information, but it's no longer in um, in the title attribute. It no longer shows up on hover, it just shows up in a little table or description list or definition list. Um, so do you, well, first, any questions on context?
No.
And then do you think it's a good idea? Do you think there's room for improvement?
Uh, I'm so used to the current way of showing it, so I look at the abbreviations, so I kind of scan them. So it will take some time to look at the long, longer uh, labels, but yeah, should be fine, especially for clients who are not used to seeing those.
Go ahead, Ralph.
Um, I've already commented on the Slack thread, and there I considered it clearer and more transparent. But on second thought, the only two details I wonder about to further improve it, maybe for one, to still add a link to the description with the key, because by simply looking at access complexity none, it looks like none means it's good to go. Authentication none is also good to go. Um, Sort of misleading, but if you take a look at the key that is provided on the documentation page, that way, yeah, if you could go there. Um, there you see basically the points in the table beneath there. They see AC non. Non is 4 points. AC basic means 2 points. AC complex means 1 point. And so I wonder, I'm not sure if it's two or both, but if you on that results page on the if you could switch back to the other one again, please. If yeah, that one, yeah. If you basically add to the non-user wizards page a +4 and and for the next step, I don't know what it is, a +2, for example. So you see how the 20 points got formed. Not sure if it's necessary, but at the very least, a link to the docs page I consider important
Yeah,
because otherwise the context is missing.
I agree that we should still have a link to this page, which has
Yeah,
all of these details and also says what the other options are. You know,
yeah.
if this one is access control none, the other options are basic or complex. I kind of feel that um, the current information doesn't include the numeric values, so perhaps um, the suggested version is right not to include them. I think they'd clutter it up a little bit. And I think that as long as we do include a link to the detailed description, um, people can look there if they want.
Mm. Just one reply in that regard. I agree that the suggestion adding the points makes it too cluttered, but still I'm not a developer, and I'm also not familiar with all um, those different kinds of what is how do we call it? That rating that is used there. So for me, it would be helpful, for example, to know with access complexity, it's the worst case. With, for example, authentication, it's the least worst case. So do you see how critical in the different areas something is? And that way you still have to look it up just to provide some sort of context if that is possible. Not sure if I'm able to convey what I mean, but
Yeah, I think I understand, but I still feel that that's information we don't currently have, even with Hover. To get that information currently, you have to follow that link, and I think that's a reasonable way to handle it with this proposal.
yeah.
So the new version gives more information, but not all the information. And the old information had this kind of symbolic values that were easy to read, but only to those who have the experience, who can kind of reference them out of memory. So in a way, this is in between, but it's okay. The suggestion, but the link would be good.
And I guess the only drawback is that it does take up room on the page. Um, as it is, you get the summary description. This is highly critical. And then you get to the details. And this, by the way, um, presumably would apply not just to the advance notice, the public service announcement, the PSA, but also to the actual security advisory, the SA. So presumably we would want to expand this as well.
Oh, by the way, I was thinking about the colors, and then I kind of started thinking that this gets sent by email or posted to Slack or stuff like that. So how will it show in plain text? Because usually the first time I see these, it's not on a website.
Ah, um, so that's an implementation detail, but my guess is that, this is Drupal. We've got structured data, and we're just talking about how it's written on, how it's displayed on the web page, and how it's displayed in other channels can be controlled separately. So, like it not only gets into emails, but also posted to X and Mastodon, possibly even LinkedIn these days, and Blue Sky. In fact, right, Blue Sky, Mastodon, and LinkedIn are all mentioned here.
So would that be a follow-up? Are we now looking at just how it looks on the website?
Yeah, and this issue is followed not under Drupal core, but under the customizations for Drupal.org. So this issue would just be about how it's displayed on Drupal.org, and yes, we could have separate issues for email and other channels. So do you think it's worth pushing the rest of the information further down the page in order to have this table? Uh,
Um,
So it moves the list of affected versions down.
yes, along with everything else.
Yeah. And I'm wondering how much variation is there in those descriptions. So if there is, like, I'm thinking about comparing uh, like moderate and highly critical. So does it show up better, the text, or kind of does it look the same? If it's like, does it make it more distinct or not? Probably not.
Yeah, I think the color is keyed to whether it's highly critical,
Mm,
critical, moderately critical, less critical.
yeah,
And other than that, the formatting is pretty much the same.
yeah. So explain that.
Oh, and I see there's an update. The risk score has been updated to reflect that exploit attempts are now being detected in the wild. I think it was 20 out of 25 when it was first published.
Yes, it was.
Ralph, do you want to say something, or is your hand just still up?
no, I raised it right now. Personally, I don't have a problem if basically the how critical a post here is takes up more space. Because in regards of readability, at least from my perspective, non-technical perspective, it's that way it's more cryptic without 23 of 25 AC non, CI all, to all, E exploit. That doesn't ring a bell at all and makes also the lookup harder with that table. It's at least easier and a bit more verbose, and I don't consider it a problem if basically the rest is moved down a bit. Um, just easier to parse, but the thing I wonder if you too consider it a problem, would it be possible maybe to have basically that as a summary element to expand? So basically collapsed, you have the current abbreviate abbreviated version, and if you expand it, then you have that verbose table version. That could be a compromise if there is concern.
Yeah, I'm thinking showing the longer text, it serves the purpose of being educational. So it would be beneficial even if it kind of makes it a bit longer to get into the other part. So I think it's fine to have the longer version.
Okay. And I agree. So I think we're all agreed that it's okay to push the additional information further down the page because this is really bad UX, what we
Yeah.
currently have. Um, so Ralph suggests maybe a details element, so that um, so what would it look like exactly? I guess it would have, security risk would still be an H3 or whatever this is. And then the summary of the details element would be this current line. And if you expand it, you get the table.
Yeah, because at the moment you have it as a tooltip, which is not accessible. Because at the moment when you hover, you get the key.
And then I guess the other point we were making is that I think we all agreed that we still want to link to the full details. And where does that link go exactly? And that's related to the question of whether we should make it a details element. Because if it is a details element, that might change where we think the link should go. For instance, do we have to expand the details element and then click on the link? Or do we make the details element expanded by default so that, you know, people can either close the details or scroll to see what comes next? And I think it would be pretty bad if the summary of the details element was also the link.
Yeah. Um,
Horrible, horrible thought. Go ahead.
just one addition. My suggestion of the details element was only to don't get the things underneath with the description and so forth too far away from basically that highly critical one. But yeah, at the moment, how you've outlined and the preceding questions that arose, a details element is only complicating things. So simply having the table is more straightforward and easier to read.
Okay, so you're suggesting as a possibility the details element, but not actually advocating for it. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
just based on the question that arose by your thinking now, I think, yeah, No, details element is not necessarily the best choice.
Okay.
Keeping it simple and straightforward is the better choice.
Okay, so if we just based on this, where does the link go? Does it fit into the table? More details and then a link? Or do we put it on the same line as the H3 security risk colon details? Do we put it below the table? And
Could you
go ahead.
switch over to the documentation page quickly again, just to remind? So basically, the risk calculator is the thing that could be linked or should be linked.
Hmm. I would just link to this page rather than, you know, that first section on the page. And I actually think that the link text security risk levels defined is clearer than the link text risk calculator. So I like my link text to mirror what it's pointing at. So I would just go to this page, use this as the link text. Woo.
In regard of reading order, maybe place one idea could be place the link in parentheses right after, in line right after the security risk heading or label or however you want to call it, so that a person is able to go to the docs page and after that continue reading with risk level, access complexity, and authentication and so forth, all the things they can look up on the documentation page they opened before, in the case they need it.
Yeah, that's one of the places I'm thinking of putting it on the same line as this H3,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the other place I'm thinking of putting it is an additional row in the table, maybe more information and then the link so that it still follows the format of the table.
That way it's after the information is provided, and if somebody is not familiar with all those things, um, could not be expected that that information is basically provided afterwards. So
I guess I don't really like the idea of adding a lot of information to the header element, H3, I think. Um, so just security risk description, those elements should be short. And then probably more important is the reading order. And I kind of think that the link to more information should come after the table rather than before. Uh, but yeah, I guess that's open for discussion.
I've just checked the markup, and security risk is not even a heading, it's just a div.
Oh, it should be a header. Oh, who did that? It's a field label. Okay, that's sort of default Drupal markup for fields. So do either of you feel strongly about where to put the link? Agree, disagree with me? Put it at the top or down here. Those are the only two places I can think of.
I would vote for the top.
Okay. Well, I think it's okay if we don't have consensus. It's a small meeting anyway, so I wouldn't want to make a very prescriptive comment. We can offer both options. So I can leave a comment on this unless one of you wants to. And we still have almost 10 minutes left. Shall we try to look at that other issue I mentioned yesterday?
Yep.
So let's see. Here we go. This one also came up yesterday around the time of the security release. The issue number is 3591155. After updating to 11.3.10, available updates page shows 11.3.9 as a newer version. This is something that only happens in a very particular situation. So someone had done the update about as soon as they could. They were watching the Slack channel and pounced as soon as it was possible to get Composer to update. And unfortunately, um, because of packaging or updating the release nodes or caching from the update module, um, did they, I guess this is not quite a screenshot, but sort of the information they saw on the updates page. Um, and this part at the top is the really confusing bit. So the installed version is 11.3.10, but the recommended version is 11.3.9. And let's see, did anyone? I see a couple of attached images. So here we go. So this is the same thing, one patch version behind. And I guess this is the recommended change is to add this warning message up here saying current release not found in available release feed, comma, try again later.
Yeah. I think, yeah, this is something it came up with some of our sites as well.
But I think maybe to as the text, it should be something like more in line with cannot be verified. So it should inform the user what does it mean that it cannot be found.
And just for the sake of comparison, this is I currently have the main branch or 12.0 dev installed, so that has its own confusion. Um, but this is the page that we're talking about. And there is this link to check manually, which I think might also fix the problem if it's just caching. And
Mm,
and yeah, Simo, you mentioned that you saw it too. It's something that comes up very rarely, but it's a very high
Uh,
stress time when it does show up.
it's something that comes up. It could be a cache thing or like that, but it's also something that comes up in a very specific point of time when that package is available, but the information of that the package is available is not yet updated to the other place. So that's something that kind of really can't really be helped, and it's only in effect for a very short time. So that kind of a fallback notification that couldn't be verified uh, would make sense, because otherwise it's a little bit hard to catch, especially since it can depend on the CI/CD pipeline.
Right. And when it's a security
Like,
release, it's a very stressful
mm,
time.
yeah, like we didn't get it for uh, 11.3.10, but we did get it for I think uh, 11.2.12 was it? So with some of the versions we got it, some we didn't.
Yeah, so there's some
But
discussion on the issue about whether it's worth fixing it. I think it is. It's, you know, DWW who prepared that screenshot and the patch says it's a small amount of code. Um, and there was further discussion on Slack. So, so I think we're agreed that it's worth fixing. It's worth adding something.
Yep.
And then I'm wondering whether I actually have the right page. Um, so shall we just focus on the microcopy in the 2 minutes we have left? I'm
Yep.
always in favor of full sentences, and I don't like stringing two sentences together with a comma. So I would say something like the current release, or maybe the value 10.6.9, release 10.6.9 is not in the release feed. I'm not sure available is important there. And then try again
mm,
later. Go ahead.
I was thinking would not be verified from the release feed. So then we could put in that, like it's about verifying in a way. So
Okay.
it would tell what it means that it's not in the feed.
And Ralph,
Um, I would rephrase basically what this all about is with current release. It would make it, I personally I would make it something like the installed release. So it's clear that basically 10.6.9 is the installed version.
yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I suggested saying release 10.6.9 rather than current release. But do you think in, installed release or installed version is better than putting in the actual number?
Or make it more explicit even and add both. meaning the installed release 10.6.9, something like that. So it's super clear that basically this is the version that the site is currently running on.
And also the placement of the warning message here, it's sort of put up in the upper right-hand corner. If it were, normally we have our messages, whether notices or warnings or errors, we normally have them full width. And I think then I would worry less about the possibility of having it wrapped to a second line.
Yeah.
Okay, we are a minute over, so let's cut it off there. We can at least say that we agree it's worth fixing and make some suggestions. And again, I'm happy to leave the comment or unless one of you wants to do it. So that's it, I think, for this week. I won't be able to make next week's meeting, but I should be here the week after that. So have a good 2 weeks, both of you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
And I'll leave a comment on the media issue.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, then. Have a
Bye.
nice day. Bye bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.